Dear friends, good day, good evening, whatever time of the day you have there. It's very nice to see you tonight. And I'm operator Starsky, as you probably guessed. Before we start, I would like to attract your attention to our mercenary moderator Janine, who requires our small support. Please check out the link. I hope that Ellie will provide it in the chat right about in just a second. It's very important because Janine, as you know, she departed to Ukraine 2 years ago in order to help Ukrainian soldiers, and she basically sacrificed all she had in South Africa, and now she requires our small support. So guys, please make sure to pay attention to this. And also, I would like to say hello to our moderators, say hello to our viewers, all of you guys. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. Let's check out the recent updates from Ukraine. Traditionally, first of all, we have this horrible strike in Kharkiv that happened today. Currently, what we know is that Russians used a gliding bomb to strike a civilian area. And we know about more than 40 victims, 7 of them confirmed dead. 7th body was discovered just a while ago. The rescuers are working in the area, and here, for example, you can see the yard. Generally, it looks like, I don't know, looks like my yard in Kyiv, like literally what I would see from my window. It's horrifying, of course. Of course, if we had this opportunity to strike Russian aviation bases on the Russian-controlled territory with long-range weapons, things like this, of course, could be avoided. But unfortunately, as we can currently see, Russian airplanes and Russian ballistic missiles, Russian cruise missiles, are much more protected by the international agreements than Ukrainian skies and Ukrainian civilians. That is the horrible truth. Good news, though, is that Atlas Russian refinery in Rostov Oblast is on fire for already 3 days. We can see that our cotton cutie that visited this place had fun, and I hope that Russian firefighters did too. Also, it was discovered that Russian, I'm not sure if I call them like Russian invaders in the Kursk region, but like generally Russian terrorists, that's the proper name for them. They were spotted building a fortification around a cemetery in the Kursk Oblast. I believe that this is like the ideal place for Russian terrorists for their fortification. Actually, it may sound funny, but we were in the similar situation back in 2019 in the area of Svetlodarsk Bulge. We had a cemetery not far from Dolomitne. There was like a cemetery, and the guys from Azov before us who were stationed there, they had a tiny position in the area of the cemetery. And then our guys were switching them, and they built like a legit position. And the distance between us and Russians was like about 300 meters, I would say, 350, something like that. Like very comfortable distance, I would say. But the fact is, like, it was sketchy. I remember there was like fog. It was late autumn. There was like this thick fog, and like we had positions among like those crosses, the tombs, and it was kind of gothic, but at the same time the guys were like, we should be afraid of alive, not dead, because dead people, they actually protect us with all those massive like tombs, like those graves, which is true, I can confirm. Another interesting update comes from Russia. Russian General Popov, his deputy defense minister in Russia. He was arrested, and we also have a small update saying that not only he was arrested, but also his wife, two adult children, his secretary, his deputy, and assistant were also taken away. And they are missing at this point. I would say that this general is lucky, General Popov, because he wasn't just sucked out into an open window, as it usually happens in Russia, as you know. But still, it's really interesting. No, Mom, I'm not going to bed yet. And that's most of the updates as of today. As you probably know, one of the tragic recent news that we learned just a couple of days ago was regarding the Ukrainian pilot Alexei Mes, call sign Moonfish, the one who piloted F-16 that was provided to us by our Western colleagues, Western allies. So unfortunately, we lost this man on 26th during the Russian massive missile and drone strike on Ukraine. Yesterday, our pilot was buried. Here we can see pictures from this ritual, from his funeral, and of course it's a big loss for everybody. He was a professional pilot. He was one of those who advocated delivering the Western airplanes to Ukraine. And it's a big tragedy. So what is the official version? Official version and the details that we know about this tragedy is that on 26th there was a combined missile and drone strike conducted by Russian terrorists. And of course, aviation together with land-based air defense measures. Our aviation was also used to intercept Russian missiles and drones. Oleksiy on his F-16 intercepted 3 missiles and 1 drone, according to the reports, the official reports. And then he said that he's aiming at another target. Apparently it was a drone. I assume so. And after that, the connection with the aircraft was lost. And after that, it was reported that the aircraft crashed and the pilot died. What was the cause of this crash? It will be reported hopefully soon after the investigation is finished. Currently, our Air Forces reported that the US also will be helping them to investigate this crash. I'm sure that the flight data recorder will be found as well. And of course, Russian propagandists already celebrate the biggest victory over the whole Western NATO bloc and all the US aviation possible, as they usually do. They already took Berlin, they already destroyed the Star of Death and yada yada. Even despite the fact that only last week one of their bombers crashed and we intercepted several of their jet fighters. But what we have today? Today we have information from one of the Ukrainian members of parliament. Her name is Mariana Bezugla. And first, I will tell you what she says, and then I will tell you a couple of words about this individual, okay? So she says that, according to my information, F-16 piloted by Oleksiy was hit by the Patriot system due to the discoordination between units. Couple of words about Bezugla. So, among all militaries in Ukraine, from like private to like general, okay, Mariana Bezugla is known as like selfie soldier. Selfie soldier. So she's like one of those people who like to go to Frontline, make selfies, and then tell everybody that she commanded our troops in Severodonetsk, which, by the way, I'm not bullshitting you, that's exactly what she said 2 years ago, that she was literally commanding Ukrainian troops in Severodonetsk during our operation there. Which I believe was not so, and I'm not even sure that she was like closer than 50 kilometers to Severodonetsk. So that's one of the people that we unfortunately have in Ukraine who like hype, and she talks all kinds of bullshit about the army. She accuses our army men of all sorts of stuff that they could not even do, you know, if they were possessed. And according to her information, she literally says, according to my information, the F-16 was shot down by Patriot. I doubt that military would even provide her information, because literally in the army and in the military community in Ukraine, like we consider her a really nasty person. Like according to Ukrainian military, she sucks. I will provide you with this information on behalf of Ukrainian military, just Trust me, okay? That's how it is. That's why in the army nobody even considers what she says like fact. Nobody would even share that information with her, anyways. And of course, Russian propagandists already use this information to make all kinds of cringy shit about Ukrainian air defense shooting down the airplane. So, according to all this shit, F-16 was shot down using Patriot system. What Mariana Bezugla doesn't know, being a civilian, she never served in the army, she doesn't have military experience, she was never involved into combat, she doesn't even know like theory, okay? She's a completely 100% civilian person. What she doesn't know is how exactly Patriot system works, because Patriot uses radar-guided missiles to intercept targets. So, thing number one is the missile is guided by the land station, the radar station that designates targets and guides the missile towards the target. There is such thing called IFF, Identificator Friend or Foe. And this stuff is installed on all airplanes. Airplanes use such thing as transponder. That is a tiny box in the airplane, in the cockpit, where you input your number, 4 digits, and you use this code to identify yourself in the sky. And basically, your friends, your comrades, the radar that scans the sky, it can identify yourself using this transponder. So it's highly impossible to shoot down an airplane using radar-guided missiles. Okay, so Patriot is not involved into this whatsoever. Russian cruise missiles and Russian ballistic missiles, they don't have IFF installed. Trust me, they don't have transponders. So that's one thing to remember. Here's some information about Patriot system. It was upgraded starting from 80s in order to engage tactical ballistic missile. Patriot Advanced Capability Pack 1, Pack 2 were installed over time. So this system was upgraded, and of course, what we use today in Ukraine is also, I would say, like it's not a too old crap, okay? It's not an old stuff. Also considering the fact that we also used plenty of air-to-air missiles to intercept Russian targets. And those missiles that we have currently in our storage, in our stockpile, they were made maybe like this year, I think. That's another thing. What could cause this crash? Of course, we can try to find the cause. We can discuss everything, but we are not investigators. Okay, investigators have all the information. They have a flight data recorder. I believe they will be able to use the data to decipher it and to find the real cause of the crash. But generally, what could cause the crash? Like hypothetically, okay, let's just. I forgot English word. Holy shit! I have to guys. I have to stream more often. What could be possible cause of the crash? First of all, of course, it depends on the altitude, because I believe if the pilot was hunting the Russian cruise missiles and Russian drones, those are low-flying objects. So they don't fly at high altitude for different reasons. Reason number one is that if they're flying low above the ground, they are harder to to be exposed by the radars, right? They're harder to be spotted by radars, and that's reason number one. Reason number two is drones don't fly really high because of icing hazard and things like that. Missiles, basically same stuff. Ballistic missiles don't care much because they're falling down using ballistic trajectory. They don't care much about icing, but all kinds of flying machinery that has control surfaces, to them icing can be a big problem. So when they fly through cloud layers, etc., it may cause all kinds of malfunction. So Cheryl says that Dennis had some ideas. That is, by the way, very interesting. I gotta check it out. But what I think is the pilot was hunting a possibly drone. I believe it was drone. I knew why I believed so, but I forgot. But I was convinced that it was a drone. And the speed of Shahed drone, for example, is rarely larger than 170 kilometers per hour, which is approximately 100 knots, I would say. Approximately 100 knots. And 100 knots is not really a good speed for a fighter jet, because flying at low speeds require using flaps. It requires being very cautious. Fighter jets are better at higher speeds. Of course, they're designed to be fast. They're designed to fly high and fast, not low and slow. That's why one of the reasons of the crash could be aircraft stalling, which happens when you fly really slow, and eventually your wing becomes less aerodynamic at slow speeds. Okay, at slow air speeds. That could be one of the reasons that I can think about. Friendly fire. There were cases both on Ukrainian side, both on the Russian side, regarding friendly fire. As for Ukrainians, it happened early when the invasion started, and as far as I remember, the airplane that was shot down by our friendly fire, it was shot down on low altitude also, but it was shot down using a manpad, using something like Igla or Stinger, air-to-air missile. So that is not something that I would say is completely impossible. Low-flying target, manpad could be. But on the other hand, why we use aviation to intercept missiles? Aviation is usually used in such sectors where you cannot use anything else. It's either sometimes a territory that is way behind the range of Patriots, or it's a territory area where you cannot use, for example, a mobile group armed with machine guns, anti-drone radio electronic warfare measures, and manpads. So in such areas, we use the aviation because they're fast. They can get to any corner of Ukraine in like minutes. That's why they're effective. So it's highly unlikely that Ukrainian mobile group was there at the time, and that's just my personal version, was that the pilot tried to shoot down the drone. Maybe he tried to shoot it down using the automatic cannon, and you probably saw that video already. I'm not sure if I have it on my Telegram, though. I gotta check it out because it was really good. My God, why is it so hard to find all the shit that I store in my file storage? No, unfortunately, I cannot find it at this moment, but there was a video published just a couple of days ago showcasing Ukrainian F-16 that was shooting down a drone. I'm sure that you guys could probably see that somewhere on Twitter or Telegram. No, unfortunately, I cannot find it. Anyways, so that is something possible. It's possible if you're flying low and slow, you can intercept drones using just several bursts from your cannon, the automatic cannon. And if the situation requires you to fly low and slow, then you will definitely, especially at such a speed, your target is flying at the speed of approximately 100 knots, right? It's slow. It requires you to use flaps. It requires you to fly very, very cautiously, and using flaps, again, you don't have such a maneuverability as on higher speeds that your aircraft is designed to operate at. What is the stall speed of like F-16, by the way? About 200 knots. That's what I was talking about. If you want to intercept a drone, you must be flying at your safety speed is more than 2 times higher than the speed of your target. Is that dirty? So 200 knots is stall speed. I think it's a clean stall speed, and 150 knots is dirty speed. Dirty means when your flaps are extended completely. So it doesn't mean that you can necessarily fly at 150 knots. It means that you still have this safety margin. You have to fly faster, 160, 170. I'm not sure about the instructions, what they teach their pilots, but you have to have this necessary safety margin. You have to fly faster than that, faster than your official dirty stall speed. So that could cause the problem. Again, he was flying low, apparently, and in that area there could be all kinds of objects, electricity lines, trees, anything. Again, depends on the altitude. I have zero details about the altitude he was flying at, because I don't know at what altitude the drone was flying. So we can only guess. That's the word. We can only guess about the details, what exactly happened. So, guys, the main point is, yeah, Duncan Stewart says 210 knots may be different loaded. Yeah, again, it only depends on the speed. The speed also depends whether you have like extra fuel tanks or not, whether you have a lot of weaponry, because again, it depends on your mass, it depends on your load of your airplane. That's also very important. If your airplane is too heavy, if you have too much fuel on board, you have a different landing mass. That means that you also need to fly faster than your clean stall speed. Yeah, unless you're trying to land. So that's one of the versions, guys. I'm not sure if it sounds convincing. Again, we will only know the answer after the investigation is finished. Please don't fall for Russian propaganda that spreads all kinds of bullshit in order to demoralize you, because that is something that we expect every single time. As for this tragedy, of course, guys, this is war, and such things will happen, unfortunately. War is all about people dying, and this is a horrible fact. This man died protecting Ukrainian civilians from Russian missiles. He saved lives. He saved lives that night. And again, this is something that we should remember. We must respect people like him, because what they do is highly, highly dangerous, even though it wasn't a dogfight, it wasn't an air-to-air combat with Russian pilots, but aviation is a sophisticated thing. Controlling airplane requires a lot of skill, a lot of training, and such things will unfortunately be happening. We will see them in the future, one way or another. So that is something that we should be prepared for. Okay, we will not have like a really long stream today, guys, because tomorrow I will be traveling. I want to see some of my relatives that live not far from here, as it turned out, relatives that I haven't seen for almost 2 decades, which is insane. And what I also wanted to talk to you today. First of all, thank you so much for subscribing to my other channel, the Operator Starsky Music. Guys, the name of this channel only proves that instead of hands, I have like paws, like a cat. I cannot use them properly. I will be able to change the name of this channel only in 2 weeks. So I'm really sorry, but I appreciate the fact that you guys liked it and liked my small story about Chernobyl. And speaking of Chernobyl, I was surfing through massive amount of information these days, and actually, there's why Times of India claiming the F-16 was shot down by friendly fire. Well, because this is like Times of India. There are like 2 most legit media you can trust your life. That's Times of Media and Hindustan Digest or Hindustan News. Those are legit. Like, trust me, they copy paste all kinds of Russian bullshit. So regarding Chernobyl, I was surfing through this massive number of different resources dedicated to Chernobyl. I found this Chernobyl guy on a YouTube. Again, extremely interesting channel that you might want to check, because they collect all kinds of like detailed information about it, about the workers, about the reactor, the night of the disaster, and things like that. But I suddenly remembered when Russians decided to occupy Chernobyl. And here, for example, you can see their positions. I've been there, not far from this place. I've been there like last year or year before that. That's actual Russian positions, Russian vehicles in Chernobyl exclusion zone. And it was crazy. Here, for example, you can, and guys, that is the forest that you usually don't go to at any cost, even if you're paid, because it's highly, highly dangerous, even for the animals. Here you can see Russians. I believe that's them entering the area of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. I think I cannot recognize that pattern in the top right. I don't remember if the administrative building had it there, but I think so. And here, for example, you can see those green sandbags, right? The sandbags that Russians used, they look exactly like that. They look like green sandbags. Not naturally green, that we had a lot of those sandbags found in Hostomel, basically everywhere in Ukraine where Russians were noticed, where they had their position. And this is literally Russian position, like Russian observation point, and on the background you can see that second sarcophagus that was made around the first sarcophagus of the fourth reactor of the nuclear power plant. That is crazy. Like, I would never like to have my observation point there, but Russians are stupid. I've been there 2 years ago. You can see that sarcophagus behind me, like that round structure, like that on the background. It was a really, really interesting trip, actually. And here you can also see another Russian position, a bunch of their boxes. Freaking Gamer, that is new safe confinement. Exactly. It was built over the previous one. That's not the original sarcophagus that was built in 86, 87, but it was the newest one that we built like in 2017, 18. Anyways, so I found some interesting footage. This was recorded by a drone that was provided by, I believe, Belarusians, but I can be wrong. And this footage shows Russian positions in Chernobyl exclusion zone. You can see trenches, you can see so-called caponniers that were left there to protect their vehicles. There you can see in the center, there you can see the Chernobyl power plant. The area is kind of burnt there, but it wasn't because it was shelled. It was literally because the idiots started a fire, and we had several reports and records from our drones, from satellite, that the idiots started a fire and burned like half of that forest. Okay? But what I find truly fascinating, is that I actually found that place. Here, for example, the Radio Freedom of Belarus showed exact location of the Russian positions, and here I found this position. Here we have Kiev. Here we have the beautiful city of Pripyat. Here, guys, we have the nuclear power plant. So you can see this confinement building, right? Here in this part, it was built, and then using rails, it was delivered, like it was dragged all the way here, and it kind of, confined the first sarcophagus. Basically, it's considered even more safe there right now. However, the level of radiation in the area is still dangerous. But over here to the west, like over here, if we compare it to the footage that was provided here, how to enlarge it? Anyways, so that is exactly the place. You see that crossroad, right? And here is the same crossroad. So generally speaking, their camp was like right about here. Unfortunately, I think this is old satellite imagery, so we cannot really see like any details here. But just so you could understand where it was located, literally next to this Russian camp, we have this absolutely beautiful place known as the Red Forest. And what we know about the Red Forest is that exactly after the nuclear disaster at the Chernobyl power plant, like this is the Russian position here, okay? And this is the Red Forest. So after the explosion at the nuclear power plant, the forest was contaminated with radiation, and the trees died like instantly because of high level of radiation that settled there. And the trees died and turned like yellow. Sometimes in my videos I call it yellow forest, because in Ukrainian we call this place Rudý lis. Rudý is ginger. In my imagination, it's usually like either orange or yellow. That's why sometimes I call it yellow forest. But that's the red forest. And a big chunk of this forest, it was removed by the military, by the liquidators. They had to remove chunk of this forest and bury the trees in the soil, because they were highly radioactive and they could contaminate other things, vehicles, etc., etc. So Russians literally had their positions there. Again, check this out. They were digging trenches in the most radioactive place in the exclusion zone. And I talked to the guy who worked at the station, and the guy said, like, I saw those like Buryats, those Russians, digging trenches. And I'm like, guys, you have to make sure that you're safe, okay? We're very much worried about your safety. You gotta dig deeper. Just dig deeper, okay? And they were literally digging trenches in the radioactive soil. You can walk there pretty much safely, okay? But if you like lie down on the ground, you will have like the funniest when you're like 60, 70, okay, if you're lucky to survive until you're 60, 70, you have like the funniest time of your life when you're old. When you dig deep into the ground, where all kinds of like contaminated rains were falling, over time, where there's a lot of radioactive material buried and stuff like that. Ooh, that is something so extreme. Okay. So can they read? You see, the problem was they didn't even really understand where they were, because again, I talked to the worker of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. He said, I asked them, like, do you know, like, what's the story of this location? They were like, no, like, come on. The dude arrived, like, the dude spent 2 weeks getting to Chernobyl from his freaking, I don't know, Vladivostok. How the hell does he know what Chernobyl is? And it was so funny. But again, looking at this photo, okay, there you can see, I will just zoom it for you guys because it's absolutely cool. Okay, so there you can see that not only they were digging trenches, but they were also using the contaminated soil to make their sandbags and to make those fortifications using radioactive Chernobyl sand. Which is, again, this is something that tells you probably everything about their level of IQ, about Russian culture, about undestructible Russian warriors, about basically everything, okay? The dudes literally were digging trenches, sometimes balls deep, sometimes like the depth of the human height. And what do we know about their casualties in Chernobyl zone? So, according to Bogdan, who was kept at a nuclear power plant for like a month, he said that he saw with his own eyes at least 10 Russian invaders, at least 10, that were evacuated somewhere to Belarus because they had acute radiation sickness. And later he said, well, because Bogdan knows how to talk to people, he said he talked to one of the Russian Spetsnaz that was taking that nuclear power plant, and he was informed that those guys basically died. And according to different sources, between 500 and 1,000, I don't know how to call them, because like imbecile, let's call them imbeciles, okay, degenerates, who were stationed in the exclusion zone of Chernobyl, they suffered from radiation to a different extent. I believe that some of them, like those idiots in that camp, okay, those idiots will probably never have children, or when they have children, they will have something so horrible you cannot even imagine after like months being stationed there, okay, in the radioactive. Guys, it's hard to even comprehend. Oh my god. Like when you bring the soil on your boots to your home, it's already dangerous. When you're driving your car with that stuff, and that stuff starts flying all around your car because of like air and ventilation, and then you inhale radioactive dust and the shit like remains in your body, and poisons it like for extended period of time. That is nasty. But when you leave yourself in a freaking trench in the radioactive soil, you know, Russians are extremely atrocious. Russians are degenerates. They are terrorists. But on the other hand, I'm really, really happy that we're not fighting against like smart people. Yeah, they're cunning, they're terrorists, they're atrocious. But I'm glad that they're not, not British. God forbid fighting with British. I'm glad they're not like smart people, okay? I'm glad that they're Russians. We were training, so that territory generally, some of those places. My friend's father was one of the first firemen to get to Chernobyl after the disaster. He died 2 days later. I'm really sorry about that. May his soul rest in peace. That is, again, I was discussing this disaster today, and it's really crazy to understand what the people went through, especially those firemen, the first guys who arrived. It's insane. The military who were cleaning the roof of Chernobyl nuclear power plant, they literally had 60 seconds of exposure to radiation to literally grab anything from the ground, throw it down, and run back. Like 60 seconds, more than 60 seconds, and like your dead is guaranteed. 60 seconds, you can still die, but if you're lucky, you will survive. The majority of guys in my father's regiment, they're not with us anymore. There's literally just several men survived. My father was looking for survived people. He didn't find basically anybody. But that's 60 seconds on the roof. The firemen who arrived and the firemen who were trying to put out the flames, like standing next to the ruins of the burning reactor, they were there for half an hour, for 30 minutes. Guys, it's really really hard to even imagine. Of course, they died. And again, one of the most contaminated places you can find currently in the exclusion zone is the hospital in Pripyat, where those firemen were treated. Because when they arrived, their clothes, they were so radioactive that they were dumped into the basement. And there's still this room. And people, before the Russian invasion, people were going there with dosimeters, and those things, they're still there and they're still deadly. And they are insanely dangerous for people. 1 hour of being exposed to the radiation when you just stand next to those clothes, 1 hour can basically put you into a coffin, like very, very soon. You know, so like 30 minutes near the burning nuclear reactor. Impossible to imagine that they even survived for so long. But some of those locations are not as dangerous, actually. We've been several times to the exclusion zone. In one specific case, I have not been to the Pripyat itself. Bogdan was in Pripyat. He worked in Pripyat for years, catching stalkers, by the way. because one of the units of the National Guard, it not only protects the nuclear power plant, but also catches like Russian recon in the area, in the woods, Russian spies, and also they're catching stalkers. The reason they catch stalkers is because those guys sometimes bring stuff from the exclusion zone. There is a lot of stuff in Pripyat, for example, and one of the things about Pripyat is that it wasn't really looted. Okay, the reason it wasn't really looted, and it's crazy because, for example, you go into like a kindergarten or a school and you see like portraits of Lenin, right? And of course, having a portrait of Lenin from an exclusion zone can be considered like a legit trophy, right? I think that a lot of guys would like to have such a souvenir. But the problem is, if you put that stuff in your house somewhere, that can possibly kill you and your whole family. That's why Pripyat, though it was looted, but not that much. It wasn't so much looted as much looted as you would expect. Oh, Mirko here. And Mirko, by the way, guys, Mirko, I think you won't protest if I show this picture, because Mirko himself is a dangerous man, my friends. Mirko is, sometimes I'm scared of Mirko, even though, like, I love him with all my heart, but my God, where's that? Where's that photo? Yeah. So, for example, if you want to see like why, or not why, but how people become brain dead, okay? It's approximately like this. Here, for example, you can see Mirko peacefully lying down on the ground, on the floor of the gym in Pripyat. Okay, this is how people become brain dead. Please don't do like Mirko, okay? If you value your life, if you want to have healthy kids, please don't do like him. It's bad. Also, what else do we have here? Bro, I will share your photos because why not? Okay, because people must know their heroes. What do we have here? Yeah, this one is really, really cool. If you saw vlogs from Chernobyl, you can probably recognize this one. It's this is his bike, okay? And this is extremely dangerous and radioactive. How do you call it? Pincer. Pincer or whatever. The one that was used to grab radioactive stuff and remove it. And that's the thing. That's where Mirko liked to spend his time before the full-scale Russian invasion. Yeah, my bro. I love you too. You know that. We found each other. So Bogdan was catching those. And Mirko is happy that he's not... he didn't become a convict, okay? Because it's very easy. When you're a stalker, there's a big chance that you can become convict. So there's a lot of radioactive stuff. Another thing is some of the areas are not that radioactive, actually. Literally, in the exclusion zone itself, you can find literally clean places. You can find safe places, okay? I believe that animals kind of found out where the places are more safe, I believe, because, they're animals. They're smart. They're smarter than us. One of the places I want to talk about is Poliske. It's here. So Poliske is another abandoned town. It's not the exclusion zone itself. It's literally like behind it, and it was abandoned in, I believe, 1996. So the story behind this place, the disaster happened, and everybody were like in Poliske, even though they were not considered exclusion zone, but everybody continued like living their ordinary life. Everything was working, schools were open, the city was alive, okay? It wasn't abandoned. The dosimetrists arrived to the city. They measured the radioactive level like every season, every year. Everything was fine. But in 1996, I believe, they finally decided to measure the radiation on the roofs. And that's when they understood that they should evacuate immediately, because all the bad stuff that arrived by air from the reactor, it settled on the roofs of the buildings across the whole town. And in 1996, it was evacuated, guys, 10 years after the disaster. And this city is currently abandoned. Again, it's probably this not as big as Pripyat, but approximately the size, I would say, approximately the size. It was very much urbanized. There were, like, you cannot see those streets from here. But again, this city was like a proper city with schools, with everything. So on the roofs, the radiation level is dangerous. On the ground, for some unexplained reason, it's okay, it's normal. And also inside of the buildings, if you don't go on the roof, right? Inside of the buildings, it's more or less okay. So you can live there. The level is considered more or less safe. So basically you can live there. Not a proper place to stay like with your family and children, but if you have, you can stay there for extended period of time. I remember we had a training with my brigades in that area. Here, for example, you can see a video that I made for my brigade back then. I believe it was like 2019, maybe 2018, maybe 19, I don't remember. You can see guys, by the way, wearing the mile systems. Here, for example, you can see the guy shooting his rifle, and on the barrel attached is laser emitter. And the guys are also wearing it's not here. You can see like on the helmets, on the chests, there you can see the guy with the smile system. It's like a vest, and on his helmet you can also see it. So it's a miles system. Those who served, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's a system that is used in training. Here you can see guys training in frames of urban warfare. And this place was extremely, extremely cool. extremely cool, because there is not many places where you can find so many buildings where you can find like it's a proper copy of a real town, right? So the experience that we gained there using mile systems, by the way, provided by our American friends, experience was enormous, absolutely enormous. Our guys trained how to properly fight, how to eliminate terrorists on the streets, inside of the buildings. They were training CQB, and armed with this tremendous experience, they went to places like Rubizhne, Bakhmut, Spirne, Klishivka, Andriivka, Liman, and that experience was crucial in those locations. And yeah, it's basically like laser tag. It's you have sensors on your head, you have sensors on your body, and you have laser emitter on your weapon. So when you shoot and you shoot blanks, it emits a laser beam, which then gets registered by the equipment that you carry on yourself, and it starts beeping. And in order to shut it off, you have to take the key from your emitter and insert into your mile system that you have on yourself. So you cannot shoot anymore, and it stops beeping, and you're considered eliminated. That is something really, really cool. We used those in 2016, I believe. Back in those days, 2016, when we were training together with our allies from, oh my god, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, United States, Canada, all those guys. We had mutual military exercise in Yavoriv, in Lviv. That was really cool. So yeah, I can say that Chernobyl exclusion zone can be dangerous. In some cases, it's not. There are clean areas, but generally it's a really dangerous place, and it's abandoned for a reason. And Russians, like their soldiers, are so stupid also for a reason that I cannot explain at this moment. Hopefully someday I will find an answer to this. Did you see any three-headed dogs? Actually, I didn't. I didn't, because such mutations in the exclusion zone, they are not really widespread. Okay, the most widespread disease in animals is like a smaller brain, which in Russians it's a feature, right? In the exclusion zone, it's a disease. It's a smaller brain, low fertility. It's basically, check out that video that I made several days ago. Everything is explained there. I wonder how it affects shorter-lived animals. Birds were captured and studied, and it was confirmed that they have smaller brain. So even birds have tiny brain, but those have even smaller. It's not rudimental. They still have all the functions of a living being, but it's tinier. You cannot find things like three-headed fish with three balls and five dicks, like nothing like that. Also, no street view. Unfortunately, I tried to find anything like that, but no street view. Google cars were not let into the exclusion zone, and unfortunately, because of the radioactive, like radiation exposure to the radiation, unfortunately, there are problems. So the dogs, for example, they rarely live longer than 6 years. Again, for different reasons. It's because food shortage, it's because cold, it's because diseases, and of course radiation. That is generally like on the street. Stray dogs, as far as I remember, they live between 4 and 6 years on average. They rarely live like 10, 12 years like a dog in a family, for example. 6 years, that's quite not bad, I tell you that, if you live in the exclusion zone. I could swear I saw you on the Autobahn today. If not, you have a doppelganger. That was a doppelganger, Sir Garrick, 100%, because I was staying at home all day. So I believe that I have probably like a twin walking down an Autobahn. What was he doing at the Autobahn? That's another question, just like wandering around. I wanted to dip in the radioactive pool to get a monster log. You may have like a monster tumor after that. Not sure it will benefit you in any way. I really remember Chernobyl. Sweden was the one who discovered it. Yeah, that's true. Because like this enormous cloud of radioactive dust, xenon, and particles, it went westwards and then north and to the Sweden, and it was discovered by Swedish equipment, basically. Like the very fact that such a tiny reactor polluted like whole freaking world, that is something insane. Even Fukushima, like if we talk about Fukushima, just to remind you, the disaster that happened in Fukushima, it was designed to withstand earthquakes, it was designed to withstand like storms, tsunami, and things like that, but it was not designed to withstand everything. And as a result of earthquake and tsunami altogether, there was a leak of hydrogen, which then exploded and damaged the reactor. So even though there was a leak of radiation as a result, but it was still not as nasty as in Chernobyl, because in Chernobyl, literally the core of the reactor with all that radioactive kitchen inside, it literally blew up and all that stuff was like disseminated over a huge area, and that's not considering the particles that then were transferred by air around the whole world. So that one was extremely nasty, and unfortunately we will still suffer because of that maybe for centuries. Two things, though, that, again, I discovered surfing through different materials. Two things, though. One thing was that this stuff could be prevented. And the reason they had this disaster was because they wanted to perform an experiment with a turbine. They wanted to check can they generate electricity from a turbine rundown in order to power the safety systems of the nuclear power plant. And they wanted to perform this experiment that was delayed several times. And there were two reasons why this disaster happened. Reason number one is because they tried to start up the reactor improperly. Properly, they would have to just say, like, let's call it a night and see you in 3 days, okay? Because when you shut down the reactor, the xenon gas starts building inside, and it can provoke the reaction that you cannot control. It makes it harder to produce, the reaction in the reactor. And according to all the handbooks, they had to wait several days for the xenon to vanish, and then they had to start the reactor. But this meant that some of those guys that were performing that experiment that day, they could literally lose their jobs, okay? Because the power plant is charging like capital of Soviet Ukrainian Republic and things like that. The guys were not authorized to like literally shut down the whole reactor. It wasn't supposed to happen. But the second thing, and it's something that not a lot of people know actually, second thing was that the reactor itself, it was modified again improperly, because according to the rules, according to the handbook, the instruction of this reactor, it was supposed to have like those rods of some specific length and the columns of water of specific length. But because Soviet fucks wanted to save money, save on concrete, they designed those roads to be smaller size. And these caused the reaction. There was a similar accident. It wasn't a disaster, but it was a similar accident, I believe in Leningrad. I believe so, where they had a properly built reactor with proper length of those roads and stuff. And in that specific case, the meltdown was stopped because they were the proper size, okay? In Chernobyl, it was a different story. Why? Because Soviets wanted to save the concrete. They wanted to save money on a freaking concrete. First of all, reactors in Canada, for example, they have containment shell around the reactor. And this shell is massive. It can withstand like a crash of an airplane, a direct crash of an airplane. It can withstand internal explosions. Soviets didn't build anything like that because they were stupid. They didn't consider human life as something necessary, like they never do, even today. And also they wanted to save on concrete. Concrete, guys, that is the most freaking widespread thing on planet, the concrete. You can make plenty of concrete nowadays, especially. Saving on a concrete. Oh my God. That's something you should know about Russians, especially like Soviet Russians. They still have that mentality, but they don't respect life. They just don't. They don't give a shit about it. They don't respect their own life as well. That is why we should fight Russian terrorism, guys. 100%. Have you heard of the Chalk River accident? I didn't. Let's check it out. Chalk River Laboratories, Canadian Nuclear Research Facility. Aha. Site of 2 nuclear accidents in 1950. The first incident occurred on December 1952, when there was a power excursion and partial loss of coolant, which resulted in significant damage to the core. Oh shit, the control rods could not be lowered into the core because of mechanical problems and human errors. Yeah, that is freaking nasty. The reactor and the reactor building were seriously damaged by the hydrogen explosions. Yeah, that's bad. Second accident in 1958 involved a fuel rupture and fire in the National Research Universal Reactor building. Some fuel rods were overheated. Shit, the largest part of the road fell down into the containment vessel, still burning. Oh, yeah. Question is, nuclear power, is it good or bad? Because it's like a discussion that we can continue indefinitely. Because, take countries like Germany, for example. In the beginning, they were like, let's stop polluting the area and switch to the nuclear energy. And then after Chernobyl, they were like, oh shit, let's stop polluting the area and switch to like coal electricity, and stuff. Currently, by the way, Germany has enormous amount of those windmills producing electricity. You can find them anywhere. I believe that something like 60% of electricity here is produced by those windmills. But again, switching back to coal and burning things, I don't know. Nuclear electricity, on the other hand, it's cheap. It's cheap. It's rather safe. You don't produce any sort of like plums of CO2. On the other hand, you have to find a place to dispose of your fuel, okay? And to dispose of the radioactive waste. Where do you hide it? Like, I don't know. On the other hand, guys, I know a perfect place, okay? And I can show it to you right away. So here, for example, we have a map. That's just my personal opinion. You have like this absolutely beautiful city called Moskva. It's really far away. Okay, it's surrounded by forests and absolutely ugly fox. You can dump everything right here, like easily. Problem solved. Thorium reactors are the future. Bunker or the palace. Could be both. Underground, of course, it's much safer, I would say. You gotta take the huilo, put it on the bottom of the bunker, and on top of him, you gotta put like the radioactive waste. Then it's gonna work 100%. Nuclear power is evolving. New reactors will be thorium or fusion. Current reactors are becoming obsolete. The new reactors can consume nuclear waste from older reactors. Yeah, that sounds. You know, guys, I think in just like several years, we will forget about those old nuclear reactors. Um, like if we are able to create, I don't know, uh, things like electric airplanes, drones with artificial intelligence that hunt Russian invaders and things like that. I believe in several years we will create something like, I don't know, nuclear fusion reactor, whatever. And they will be much, much more safe than today. Yeah, here, for example, nuclear power is good, safe, clean, and efficient. It gets bad reputation because of some major isolated catastrophes. The main issue is storing the waste. That's the thing. Um, that's the thing. Oh, in USA, all spent fuel is stored at plant. I know that there's like those underground storages that are deep on the ground and they're protected with like thick layer of concrete where you can store them for next several hundred years. Um, but I'm not sure if we even studied enough, you know, the possibility of using that nuclear waste because it's still radioactive. I'm not a physicist, but I'm sure the smart people out there can do something. Oh, waste stays toxic for 10,000 years. Not bad. Oh, yeah, this is a good point. Most people don't know nuclear reactor fuel rods are at best 15% enriched, warheads minimum of 80%. So reactors explode from steam or hydrogen and can't create a nuclear explosion like a bomb. Actually, that's the thing, because in order to have a proper nuclear reaction, you have to have an enriched nuclear fuel. What it means is that there's several types of uranium. And, oh my God. Just a second. Guys, I will explain it. In just a second. So, here we have nuclear bomb. Like, of course, let's refer to Wikipedia, like the most legit source of information out there. Okay, we have blah blah, weapon delivery, nuclear strategy, that's not interesting, governance in control and law, that never works. Shit. Okay. Fuel. No. Enriched uranium. Yeah, so we have uranium-235. This stuff is used to create the chain reaction. I'm not sure if you remember the lessons of physics. I don't really remember the lessons of physics from my school because I ditched it. I prefer history, but generally you have you need to have your uranium enriched with this specific type of atoms, and if it's enriched like at the level of like 80, if your core of your bomb contains like 80% of this specific type, then you can have a proper nuclear bang. In reactors, the enriched nuclear fuel is not used. Okay, 15% max. I don't even remember if it's like 15 or 12 maybe. Maybe even less. Did you like the movie Chernobyl? Wasn't bad. Wasn't really accurate, but at the same time, like, it did its job, which was raising awareness and telling the truth about Soviet bullshitters. Okay, that was something proper. Okay, wasn't really accurate. There's a lot of criticism towards those episodes, but in general, wasn't too bad. Um, 239 is what makes it critical. 239 is plutonium, I believe. 239 is plutonium. because that one can split and use that extra particle to produce same type of reaction. So that's plutonium. Okay, dear friends, I will be going to bed. Thank you so much for today's stream. Please let me know in the comments if you liked it. I enjoyed this Friday night. It was good. And of course, don't forget about those guys who sacrifice their lives nowadays for all of us. And not just they protect their own families and their friends and their lifestyle and their freedom, but they're also doing it for the rest of the democratic world. Let's remember those guys and let's wish them all the best to those who live and the eternal memory to those who are not with us anymore. My dear friends, we'll see you next time. Next week, I will probably be a bit busier traveling, but we will still see you, I believe, in Wednesday or Friday. I will definitely let you know. Again, thank you so much for checking my other channel, for subscribing to it. I will soon change the name, I promise, only in 2 weeks, and there will be much more stories. I decided to make content that you will probably not find on other resources, okay? There will be a lot of stories, a lot of like really, really dark stories, but also a lot of exciting stories. Did you know about the old civilization of Tripilians that were building like proto-cities on the territory of Ukraine and Romania 5,000 years ago? I will tell you about this one. I will talk about stories from Chernobyl because I think people like this lore, okay? I will tell you about some of the nastiest maniacs that operated in Ukraine and brave people who caught this dude and his story. Like, again, it's something incredible. Again, not too many of you guys know about it. If you want to know more about the gang wars in Donbass in the 90s, also please let me know because I know a lot about that as well. My dear friends, we'll see you later then. Have a great day or great night, wherever you are. My name is Operator Starsky. As always, be safe. Bye-bye.